Well, with all of the talk that I do on this channel about the fourth turning, I thought it might be useful to do a timeline of some of the recent political violence in America, because it's not theoretical, it's not metaphorical, it's real bullets, real bodies, and real ideology. So let's start on June 14th, 2017, which was a sunny morning in Alexandria, Virginia, and then a man walked up to a baseball field and opened fire on Republican members of Congress during their practice. Representative Steve Scalise was shot and nearly died, and others were wounded. The shooter, James Hodgkinson, was a Bernie Sanders supporter who'd expressed deep hatred toward Trump and the GOP, and he targeted Republicans on purpose. That moment shattered the illusion that political violence was a thing of the past. So then, just 2 months later, white nationalists marched with torches in Charlottesville, Virginia. They chanted about Jews and heritage, and one drove his car into a crowd of peaceful counter-protesters, and Heather Heyer was killed. Dozens were injured, and the driver, James Fields Jr., was a neo-Nazi. That weekend made it clear that America wasn't just divided, it was armed and radicalized. In 2018, pipe bombs were mailed to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, CNN, and other critics of Donald Trump. And the bomber, whose name was Caesar Sayoc Jr., I believe was a former stripper or something, and it was also a pro-Trump extremist, and his van was plastered with MAGA slogans and threats. He sent over a dozen explosives, and none detonated. But the message was clear that disagreement could now mean very real death threats. In El Paso, Texas, a shooter opened fire in a Walmart, and 23 people, mostly Latino, were killed. He posted a manifesto before the attack, and it echoed white nationalists' great replacement conspiracy theories and cited anti-immigrant rhetoric. He wasn't just a lone wolf, he was a believer, a radicalized young man with a gun and a goal, which was to stop demographic change. I'm sure you remember Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who was nearly kidnapped by a militia because of COVID restrictions in Michigan, and her refusal to bend to pressure to lift those, and that made her a target. And the FBI foiled the plot just in time, but it revealed something chilling, that armed citizens thought they had the right to remove elected officials. I'll put remove in air quotes there. And then a man broke into the home of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He was looking for her. She wasn't there, but her husband Paul was, and he was beaten with a hammer on the floor of his own home. And the attacker echoed QAnon slogans and ranted about evil elites. This wasn't a robbery, but it was an assassination attempt, and it was inspired by political delusion. In 2024, a gunman fired at Donald Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania, and the shooter missed. He was a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, and his motives are still being unraveled, but authorities declared it domestic terrorism. An attempted assassination of, at that time, a former president in the United States in broad daylight. And just this spring, someone set fire to Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence. The suspect had plans to attack with a hammer. No one was injured, but it echoed the Pelosi case and suggested further escalation. A slow drumbeat of threats becoming real violence. And then, more recently, 2 Israeli embassy workers were shot dead outside a D.C. museum, and the suspect, Elias Rodriguez, who shouted "Free Palestine" and had past affiliations with far-left Party for Socialism and Liberation, something like that. This was an act of political terror, crossing lines from protest to bloodshed. And then came Minnesota. Just now, June 2025. A man impersonating law enforcement walked into 2 homes. He shot and killed former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. Then he drove across town and shot State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Hoffman survived. His wife did not. The killer, Vance Bolter, had a kill list. Dozens of pro-choice and liberal officials. He called himself a Christian soldier. This is brand new information, so I hope that that's accurate at the time that this gets released. And this wasn't a breakdown. Apparently it was a mission. This isn't about left versus right. It's about a slow corrosion of democracy when people begin to see violence as a political expression. And most of these attacks came from the far right, and some from the far left, but all came from the same poisoned well: dehumanization, conspiracy, and the belief that the ballot box no longer matters. When you tell people the system is rigged, when you glorify strong men, when you make enemies instead of opponents, this is the result. The founders warned about factions. Lincoln warned about mobs. You can't claim to defend the Constitution while you're loading your rifle to kill your neighbor. This isn't just extremism. It's an unraveling, a crisis climax. And the question now is, will we stop it before it's too late? Or where will we turn from here?